Well, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jonathan Taylor. I'm the Technical and Marketing Manager for Civil Survey Solutions. And it's my privilege to welcome you here today for our technical webcast, AutoCAD tips and tricks. It's now my opportunity to just introduce you to Selwyn. He's part of our technical services team. He's an application engineer and got a very, very extensive background in CAD management. Selwyn, I know you've got an absolute ton of different things to go through. So much so we haven't even got a PowerPoint for you today, guys, because it's literally a smorgasbord of tips and tricks in AutoCAD. So I know Selwyn's got a huge amount to go through with you. So with that, I'll hand over to you, Selwyn.
Cheers, Jonathan. Welcome, everyone. Today we're going to go through some AutoCAD tips and tricks. I have a bucket load of tricks and tips. It may be too much for one session, but if it extends, if it seems too long, we'll probably run another session in a few weeks to cover the parts that I miss. But we'll see how we go. We'll get straight onto it. Okay. So I'll be working in AutoCAD 2021. I'm not tackling any of the new features of 2021. So if you're using 2020 and earlier, you should have no issue with the tips and tricks that I'm going to present to you today. So to get on with it, to start with, I'm going just a simple one. When you open your files, you'll see in here that we have a list of locations that we can go to automatically. We might find that we have a project that we have to work on a lot, and we can actually go in and we can drag a folder and place it over here. So when I go to a job or something like that, if I need to go back to this job here, I can click on that and it will take me back to the same folder. And then I can just go through to wherever I want to in that one. So that's my first one. So I'm just going to open a simple file at the moment. When we're in here, if we have multiple files open, if we right-click on the entry up here, you'll see that you have an option of close and close all. So hold on, I'll open another drawing, just so we've got a couple in here. Now I'll right click and I've got an option here to save all. So it will save this layout drawing and this filters drawing. I can close all, which will close both of these drawings and return me to the start menu, or I can close all other drawings. So this current drawing that I have will remain open and the filters drawing would be closed. So if I click on close all other drawings, filters will close. Okay, so in here we've also got a quick access toolbar, which is along the top here, and we have options that we can add in, standard options here. So you might want to put the properties window, you can click on that and it'll place a check mark with it. However, we might find that we are dealing with layers a lot of the time or something like that. If you right click on a entry on your ribbon, doesn't matter which one it is, I'll right click on this layer control, add to quick access toolbar, and you'll see now that we have the layer manager or the layer drop down available on the quick access toolbar. You could do that the same with your colors, your groups, paste. I can add table. Okay, so any of these items can go up onto the quick access toolbar rather than having to go back to the home tab or wherever you may have this option. You can right click. Yes.
Very quickly, we are getting questions coming. So I appreciate this is a whistle-stop tour that Selwyn's taking you through at the moment. There's a lot he's going into, and we are getting questions in. There are some questions that I'm going to try and answer on the side and maybe raise them at the end. One of them was close all. Do we save the drawing when you run the close all?
If I open, sorry, I'll open the other drawings. I'll modify this drawing, I'll just put a line in there so that that drawing's been modified. If I go on here, make this one current, this one hasn't been modified, right click, close all other drawings, and it will prompt me to save the drawings that need to be saved or haven't been saved since they were modified.
Thanks, Selwyn. That's great. Okay. It's just couple of housekeeping things, folks. If you are struggling to see the screen, please can you double click on what you can currently see on screen at the moment. If you double click, that will take you into full screen mode. If you double click again, you should see on the top right hand corner the option to reduce. So this is really just down to the form or the window that you've got open at the moment. Some people have said that they haven't got, or one person said they haven't got any video. But from what I can see and from what some of the responses we're getting, I think all of you have got video. So if you can just make sure that you've double clicked on your browser or the screen that's in front of you. And also, if you're still not seeing video, unfortunately, it could be IT restrictions that are preventing you at your end from unfortunately being able to stream the video. So it's just a little bit of housekeeping there. But I believe that, in fact, while I've been doing that, some people have had the resolution thereafter. So sorry, Selwyn, thanks ever so much for that.
All good.
Get back to it.
Yep, no problem. So yes, if I click on yes, it'll save that drawing and it will close it. Okay, so there's no fear of losing your drawing by clicking on close all. Your drawings will be saved if they need, or if it's suggested for them to be saved. So we've had a look at our quick access toolbar as well. We can remove the items if we want up here. However, I seem to keep that one up there. It's very handy to have because, you know, we all work with layers. Okay, so another one, we work with layers all the time and we work with shortcuts. So when we type L, it brings up the line command. When we type A, it brings up the arc command. So if we go to the Manage tab, we were able to modify those aliases to something that you want or add additional aliases in there. So we'll go to the Manage tab, Customization. And I've got something on screen here that I shouldn't have just at the moment. Over here, we have a button that says Edit Aliases. If we click on that and then click on Edit Aliases, we were able to come in here and we can modify the aliases that are used in AutoCAD. So we'll see here we have a comma and it will run the arc command. Quite difficult to manage using this method. And we are able to edit the autocorrect list for when you're putting text into your drawing, and also the synonym list that's used when we type line. Sorry, if we type block at the command line. Sorry, that's not really doing what I'm. There's aliases used for different commands down here, so I thought block was one of those. Anyway, we'll move on from that one. Express tools, we can head over to here, and we have an option over here that says command aliases. This will bring up an interface showing all the command aliases that are in your drawing. So here we have the alias of A, and it runs the arc command. So it's a little bit easier to monitor or to manage the shortcuts in here. You can click on one and click on remove, or we can just go in and we can add. I'll just bring that window on screen. So we've got a shortcut of PL for polyline. We could, maybe we want to use QQ for polyline, and then we come down here in this list and we'll find polyline, sorry, pline. So when I click OK here, I've now got a shortcut called QQ, and that will run a polyline command. So I click on OK, and we want to overwrite. And now if I type QQ, we have the polyline command running. Okay, another one down here, when we have our layouts in our drawing, we might find that we have lots and lots of layouts that extend all the way across, or we might have a status bar that extends across and we can't get all the items to show. We can right click on one of the layouts and we can click on dock above status bar. So that will make the layouts extend all the way over to the far side of the screen, and whatever status bar items, they'll just be underneath. So it might be a little bit easy. You find that sometimes you have to click the down arrow to get to all your other layouts. That'll enable you to get the whole screen filled up, but you will still have a down arrow if it fills the screen. Okay, dynamic input. I'm not sure how many guys are using this, but it's actually a really good tool if you can work out how it works with other things. So, hold on, I'm just dynamic input. This icon here. If we right click on, actually, when we draw a line, it goes relative to where we are in the drawing by default. To get to each of the items, we can click Tab and we'll be able to toggle through each of the items here. If we cancel out of that and we right click on Dynamic Input Settings, we have in here on this side settings for enable pointer input settings. We can actually get them to be Cartesian format or absolute coordinates. Some people find that when they've got the dynamic input running and they're trying to create coordinates using 10, 0 or something like that, it's always relative to their last point. If we change it to absolute coordinates, those points that you enter will be absolute rather than relative coordinates. Okay, we've got a drawing here. Not a very good example, but if we have a look in here, we've got viewports. So we've got a viewport here, and we've got a viewport here, and this one around the outside. We find it difficult when you're in a viewport. If we double click in this one here, we'll find that the main viewport will be active. It's difficult to get into these ones. The only way to get these ones is to, sorry, I just, sorry, didn't mean to double click on that one. Sometimes people will extend the viewport out past the outer one. So now we can click on this one and we can click on this one. It's not ideal because you would have to mask your viewport to try and get rid of some of the stuff that's out here. So I'm just going to undo and get that viewport back to where it was. So if I click on in a viewport here, we've got these two viewports. If we hold Control and R at the same time, keep hold of Control and R, we'll be able to cycle through each of the viewports and work on those viewports individually. Okay. So that's how you get around with multiple viewports in your one drawing. Another one, in model space, we have our drawing that looks something like this. In paper space, I've got it looking like this. Sometimes it's handy to see what your drawing would look like when it comes out on paper. So if you right click on a layout, go to Page Setup Manager, I'll just modify the current one. And then we have up here, I've got a style set as monochrome, and I'm going to click on Display Plot Styles and OK and close. And you'll see now that our title block has become black. And if we put it on our line weight, we'll actually see the line weights that will print when we're printing our drawing. The only colors that will change are the colors, the AutoCAD colors 1 through to 256. If you're using true color, they won't change. They will still stay as whatever color they may have been created with. So it's actually nice sometimes. This is what is going to be printed. The logo will be in color. The outlines and everything in our drawing will be in black and white, in monochrome, and whatever has a true color set to it will remain the color that was set. Okay, we'll head up to the big A. up here, you have commands and you may not know where to find them on the menus or the ribbons or anything like that. If we click on the big A and up here, we type line or some other command that you know of, and it will tell you here where to locate the command. So on the ribbon tab, home, draw, line. So if I close that now and I go home, the draw tab, and that's where the line command is. Also, with AutoCAD, with the help system, I'll search for line in here. Hold on, line. And most of the pages in the Autodesk or the AutoCAD help system have a button that says find. If we click on find, it will go and show us on screen where that command is. So I'll go to insert a block reference, and I'll click on find, and it's showing me where that command is on the ribbon. So it's handy to be able to find things if you're not sure where they are. This is probably the easiest way to locate a command. You also may find that you're using the draw tab or the draw panel a lot. You can actually grab hold of the draw panel and drag it out and place it where you want. It can be on another screen. It can be anywhere. You can do the same with any of the other ribbon panels, change tabs, whatever, and they will stay on screen. When we click on the button up here at the top, it will return it to its original position. Sorry, I just can't grab it. So if I go back to home, I'll now see that the tab has returned to where it was. And if I do the same on this one, it should return over here to the left of modify. And that's how it works. You may find that you'll never use featured apps or add-ins or any of those sort of ones. You can go to a blank area on the ribbon, show tabs, and I can click on add-ins and uncheck it, and the add-ins ribbon entry will disappear. Same with featured apps. I'll go down to featured apps, uncheck that, and it will disappear off screen. So you can have the items wherever you want. You can move them around wherever you want as well by just holding and dragging the header. You know, you might find that you're using the home tab a lot, the annotate tab a lot, and the manage tab a lot. So, you know, it makes sense to have them close by, and the ones that you don't use very often, put them over to the right, and, you know, it'll be a lot less movement to get around into our drawing, into our ribbon. Okay, am I going too fast, Jonathan?
No, certainly not for me. Look, we've got questions coming in on different things, sort of semi-related to what you're talking about. So we'll actually save them for the end.
Okay.
I think some of them require an actual demonstration. Maybe just slow it down, just a fraction, I think, just for a few of the users.
Yep. That's all right. Yeah, I wasn't sure because just churning it all out and I'll slow down a little bit.
No problem. Great stuff. Thank you.
Okay. Action Recorder is probably something that not a lot of people are aware of or use. It's on the Manage tab. The Action Recorder will actually allow you to create macros that you can reuse in your drawing. So I'm going to create a simple macro. I'm just going to set a layer current, and I'm going to draw just some lines and complete the line command, and then we'll modify that macro and show you what you can do with a basic. This is going to be a very basic macro, but it might give you an idea to move on with other things. Okay, so on the Manage tab, Action Recorder, we'll click on the Record button, and it comes up here with this window here. So what I'm going to do with the action recorder, if you use a dialog box, those entries will not be recorded in the macro. You will have to set the settings manually. If you use the command line version of the routines, like layer, if you type layer, it brings up, sorry, I'll just stop that just before I move on. If I type layer, it brings up a layer manager. And whatever we do in here, the macro recorder will not acknowledge whatever we've done in here. So if you've got a dialog box or a window that you need to access, use the command line version. Usually, if most dialog boxes, like the plot command and all these other ones, if I type -plot, I get how to configure the plot at the command line. So a lot of the dialog boxes will have a minus or the ability to put minus before it. So I'll do -layer. And that will give me the options that I would have in the layer manager. Okay, so what I'm going to do now, I'm going to record. I'm going to set a layer current. So I'll do -LA layer. I'm going to make a layer, M for make. Making a layer will set it current rather than just creating the layer. I'm just going to call this test. I'm going to set a color for that layer, color, and I'll set it red. And it's asking me enter the layer name for color 1, and I'm setting layer test, which is the one I just created. So this will come up. I'm just going to use the current default value because I want to get out of the layer command. So this macro here, it's just made a layer called test. It's set that layer current and it's set its color to red. So I'm going to now draw some lines. I'll just do 3 lines and I'll do C for close. That's all we're going to do in this macro, basic sort of stuff. So I clicked on the stop button. It's asking me for a name. I'll just call it 3 lines and OK. Before we went into the plot settings, I'm just going to change the settings for the display, just so we get the red color back. So I'll turn that one off. And now we've got this red triangle. If I delete this triangle, I set that macro current and I click on play, it will redraw that triangle that we just had. On the layer that we wanted, layer test. However, we may not want it to go into the same place each time, but we want 3 lines. So I'll delete these. And now up here, I've got to start. These are the coordinates that we used for that triangle. If I right click, I can change this to pause for user input. I'll do that with the second one, and I'll do that with the third one. And now when I run this routine, click on play, it's set the layer current, and now I can choose where to put those lines. So you can also come up here. We want to, draw 3 lines on a different layer. We can change this pause for user input. So rather than going layer make test, it's going to go layer make and wait for me to enter a layer name. So it will make the layer that I enter. It'll set its color to red. Maybe we don't want it red. We'll pause for user input for that one as well. Okay. So now when I click on play, it's asking me for a layer. I'll just call this ZZZ. And the color I want to use is 5. And it should have actually done that. I didn't set the color. Sorry, I must have stuffed up there somewhere. Oh, because I didn't do a pause for user input there. Pause for user input will allow you to pause. You can actually place a message before. So enter layer name. And then as it goes through the thing, it's saying up here, enter enter layer name, just to remind you what to do. And then you can just process through your macro as you would. Your macros will be listed up here, and down here is where your action macros are stored. So it'll just bring up the options menu, and we can come in here, we can click modify, and if we click on options, it will take us to options, and this is where our macros are being stored. Okay, we've got title blocks in our drawing. They've got attributes. It's probably not a good example of title block. You might have other blocks in your drawing, but this is going to show you. We've got attributes here. If we double click, we can edit them. However, we want them as text. There is a command called burst, and that's on Express Tools under blocks, and it's called explode attributes. So you'll see now that we actually have text rather than attributes. Okay, I'll go into model space now. Hold on, I'll get out of that command. We've got lots of blocks in this drawing. Sorry, they're not blocks, but there are blocks. So we might want to know how many blocks are in a particular drawing. If we go to the command line, this one's not on a ribbon anywhere. This one's called bcount. And it's asking us to select objects. I'm going to type all to select every object in my drawing. And then if I click on F2, it'll bring up the list of how many blocks of each name. So there's 2 sinks in this drawing. There's a sofa round back 7 foot. There's 2 of those in this drawing. There's 52 coffee chairs and so on. It's gone and checked in your layouts as well. CTB4 is in layout 1. So it's picked up the blocks whether they're in your current viewport or in the whole of your drawing. So when I did all, it selects everything in our drawing. If I go through and I just go around the window, the CTB4 file is no longer listed, as it's only doing what I've selected for it to list. Okay. We might be working on a drawing and we're finding it's difficult to find things in there or to work on a certain layer. There is an isolate option down here on the command line, sorry, on the status line. Isolate objects. If I click on isolate objects here, and I'll just go through this section here, it will turn everything else off in this drawing, and I'm able to work on this section here without all the other stuff that's in there. If I come back to isolate objects, I click on end object isolation, and everything is restored to screen. The other option down here that we have is hide objects, and it works in reverse. So it'll get rid of the stuff that you choose rather than retaining the chosen items. And then back down there, end object isolation, and all those objects will display once again. Okay, so most people would be using AutoCAD with the UCS icon displayed down here. This icon signifies the orientation of our X and Y and Z coordinates. You may not be aware, but we can actually click on the UCS icon, grab the corner, bring it up, and that will set the base point of here to 0 by just placing that on that item. So if you want to use relative coordinates from a certain point, you can set that point there. We also, most people will have the little view cube thing over here on the right-hand side, which is located on the view panel. We'll click on view cube and it should appear. So you'll see in here, we've got north, south, east, west, we've got top, we've got the different views that we have. This is only a 2D drawing, so it's not much of a drawing to look at in 3D or anything like that. However, there's a little home button up here on the left. If we click on that one, it returns our drawing to what it thinks is the home view. We want the home view to be just our normal view. So we'll come back up here, we'll right click, and we'll click on Set Current View as Home. And now if I change my view, and then come back up here and click on Home, my drawing will return to where it was before. You can also save views or save the UCS by using the new UCS button there. There's a few other tools in here that you might want to have a look at. There's Perspective and Perspective with Ortho, and you've got your view cube settings, which manages the size of it. So if you want it smaller, if you want it more transparent, you can do that there. Okay, we'll go back into a viewport. Sorry, once it regenerates.
Selwyn, just while you're discussing viewports, you inadvertently earlier used maximize viewport, and we've just had a question which basically says, what exactly was it that you did there to basically get you into the viewport? So it was just, I know it's an aside, but
yes.
The maximize viewport command was sort of something that someone was asking about.
Okay, so I'll choose the viewport, right click, maximize viewport.
That's great. I think also double clicking does something similar.
It does too, yes. So VP max, VP min will restore it.
And I guess the only thing was the status bar down the bottom, or the quick access bar down the bottom. There's also an option that only appears when you're in paper space, just to the right-hand side of selection cycling. Sorry, as in paper space. Sorry, there's an icon there, which it will allow you to do something similar.
I think you have to make the
correct. You have to select, just come out in the paper space. There you go. It's just to the right-hand side of selection cycling. There it is, maximize viewport. So sorry about that. I just thought,
no, all good.
While we were on viewports, have a quick look at that. Thank you.
Yep, I would have forgotten about that one.
No problem.
Thank you. So yeah, you'll have maximize and you'll have minimize here. So, and okay, so you can toggle both ways there, or VP min, VP max. Double click on the viewport. Yeah, there's multiple ways of doing it. You've also got clean screen, which I've disabled down here, which will make just the drawing window visible on screen and gets rid of the menu bar and stuff. Okay, speaking of viewports, we'll go back to model space. We might find that we have, we want to work on different parts of the drawing or different views or something. We can up here click on viewport configuration list, and we can maybe create 2 vertical viewports, which will be identical entries or objects. And you'll find that when we are in one viewport, it displays in the other. But we might find that we want to move, we can move those lines around wherever we want. We'll see up the, don't know if it's possible to see, but there's a little plus up here. If we click on the plus, we can actually create more viewports. And then we have these bars here. We can move those around, and that will, oh, I missed the, so if I drag it up to the edge, it will disappear and return. Okay.
So Selwyn, we're getting a flood of questions, and I'm frantically trying to
Yes.
answer as many of them as possible as we're going through. But I'm not 100% sure on the context of the question here, but it was basically saying, is there a quick way to prioritize a viewport and hide data underneath if you have overlapping viewports? And my suggestion would be to use layers to freeze content in a particular viewport specifically. But have you got any other suggestions?
Okay. We were actually going to cover that a little bit later on, but
okay, fantastic.
no, that's all right. I'll just step into that now while we're in here. I'm just going to move that over here just so I can toggle between viewports easier. Okay, so I've got in here that viewport and I can get into this one here. I think what you're talking about is here we see this layer here. I just got to, hold on. The easiest way might be just bring up the layer panel. And over here, we have viewport controls. So with our, we've got our on freeze, VP freeze, lock color, VP line weight.
Just a quick one, actually. One thing I again, this is my personal preference, but if I like to right click on the headers there and just say maximize all columns.
All of them, yeah.
There's nothing worse. Sometimes you get a drawing from somebody else and they've got everything completely reduced.
So yeah, I know. Yeah, I was just after the VP entries. So when we're in model space, you'll see that there's no VP entries. Okay, when we go into layout and we're in paper space or in a viewport, you'll see that we now have the VP options. So if I come in here into this viewport, I'll find out what layer that's on, a wall. So up here, I'll locate a wall. We're working on this viewport at the moment. So my viewport color I want for that wall will be blue. Click on OK, and that line work will turn blue. If I have a look in the other viewport, I'll just move that out of the way for a moment, get a similar sort of area. And you'll see that they are still red. So that's the same drawing, except it's showing as blue in here and red in here. I can come into this viewport, I'll bring the layer manager back, and I'm going to change that to a different color again. I'll make the line type, sorry, I went onto the wrong layer there. I'll make the line type dashed, and you'll see that the line types and the color change in this viewport, but not in this viewport. And if we go back to model space, these lines should still be red. So we've not made any changes to our model with our layers or our colors, but they are controlled through the viewport. So I might have this viewport here, and if I select all, and I go VP color, and I go white, okay, everything should change. I'm in the wrong one. Sorry, I was in the wrong viewport there. No, I wasn't in a viewport. That's peculiar. But VP color, VP line weight, line type, you have transparency available as well. And over here, there's an entry that says new VP freeze. So if I'm going to select a multitude of layers in here, and I'm going to click on new VP freeze. So you should see that it's got a little freeze mark there. So now I'll close that. I'll create another viewport. Sorry, MV. And all those layers are frozen in this viewport when I created that new viewport. Okay, so now VP freeze, it just shows you that they're frozen. Those layers are frozen. So any new viewport that I make, those layers will be frozen. If I go back into the layer manager, I'll select all, I'll go back over to here, and I'm going to make them all able to be shown. Close that. I'll create another viewport, and everything is displayed. Is that what you were after, or what you think, Jonathan?
I believe so. Yeah.
Okay.
No, that's more than adequately answered that question. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Right. Okay. When we're drawing objects like our text, so I'll just go back home to text. If we expand, sorry, I've just got to find the setting. Annotate is where I was after. If we come down and expand text, we can actually get any new text that we create to go onto a layer. It's set as use current at the moment. So whatever my current, if I create text now, it will go on layer ZZ. That's mText or normal text. So if just a bit of text in there somewhere, I'll actually change this so it reflects. So if I click on that, it shows you that it's on layer ZZ. If I come back down here and I change this and I set it to title, all text, when we create the text, will go onto layer title. So text, it should have gone onto layer title. Okay, that's an odd one. There's the same entry under dimensions, and you can set the layer that, sorry, the layer that dimensions should be going on to. I'm unsure why that's not working for me at the moment. And also, if you're working with Xrefs, you might find that you have a layer that you insert X reference onto. So I'm just going to create a layer and I'll call it Xref. And this isn't on the menu anywhere as well, but when you create an X reference, it generally goes onto the current layer. If you type the command Xref layer, we can actually set a layer for the Xrefs to come onto whenever you insert an X reference. So I'll just do Xref. I think that's the layer I called it. So any X references that are attached to our drawing, they'll come in onto the layer Xref by default. Another one, when you're drawing lines, we can hold the shift. You can see here, we've got no constraint at all with ortho or anything like that. But if we hold the shift button, the line will be constrained to ortho, so 90 or 0 degrees. If I release the shift button, I'm free to draw wherever I want. So it's a handy one to know rather than clicking on the ortho button down here or pressing F8. So if it's only just for one click or something like that, just hold the shift button and it'll toggle on or off. And it doesn't matter where you go in your drawing. When shift's held, it will be horizontal or vertical. Okay. So I'll get rid of that one there. I'm going to go to another drawing at the moment, this filters drawing. What we're going to have a look at in here is looking at filleting and chamfering. When we run the fillet command, F for fillet, it has a radius set. I've got it set to 10 meters. And when we run the chamfer command, we've got distances set. Actually, I'll set something there. I'll go 20 and I'll go 10 for the chamfering. Okay, so if I chamfer here to here, I get that chamfer based on what I just entered. If I chamfer again and I hold the Shift command, click the lines, it will ignore the settings and it will just, where the lines intersect, that's where the lines will go. Okay, so I can delete that one there. I'll do the same with the fillet command. So normally fillet goes like that. If I fillet again, click our lines, hold Shift while I'm doing it, it does the same thing. So if you need lines to intersect, an easy way is run fillet or chamfer and hold the Shift button while you're selecting your objects. You may have noticed a moment ago I deleted the chamfer line that was just here, and I've done additional work since deleting that line. So these two lines were modified and this arc was put in since I deleted this item. If you've gone through your drawing and you've realized you've deleted something and you actually want it back, the last object deleted can be restored by typing oops, O-O-P-S, and you'll see that line has come back. Even though I have done additional drawing and drafting since I deleted that object, if I delete this one, this is the last object deleted. If I type oops, it will return that other one rather than doing the undo or using the undo command. You might want to repeat a command over and over, say the line command without having to press 2 enters at the end. Normally when you do a line, I'll change the line type there. Sorry, guys, just so it's a little bit easier. When you do a line, you pick your points, press enter to get out, and then you press enter to start again. If we type the command multiple, and then it's asking for a command name to repeat, I'll type line, it could be just L, and I can do the same thing as before, enter to get out, and the line command will continue. So you don't have to press the additional enter. It's when you're doing multi-text, M-text or something like that, and you're doing multiple entries of M-text, rather than doing that additional enter to end the, to restart the command, type multiple and then the command that you want to repeat.
It used to be that we'd run this command on not so long ago, actually. I vaguely remember that the copy command didn't have the option of multiple. So it used to be a fairly common practice, from what I recollect, Selwyn, that you'd have to type in multiple first and then run the copy command to keep the copy command going.
To keep it going,
even
yes.
when you'd finished, yeah. So
yep.
It's been around a long time, hasn't it? It's just, I think Autodesk have gradually realized that you don't need to be having to run that every single time you want to repeat something.
I started with AutoCAD release 11 and was in there then.
Yep.
So it's one of those ones it's been there for ages, but documentation is fairly low on it.
It is, yeah. And look,
yes.
we've actually had a user just pop in and say, hey, if you haven't, see, this is another command which actually gets missed. It's called the measure command, which we're not really going to go into, but Darren has mentioned that using the measure command with multiple works quite nicely. So you have used the measure command, not the new measure, the original measure command,
yes.
which was to place an object or a block or a point along a specific, an item. Apparently, the multiple works nicely there as well.
Yep, it is.
Anyway.
Yeah. Yes. No, that's good. Align is another command that can be handy sometimes, and that's on the Home tab under Modify. And you need to drop down the list, and it's on the bottom left here. So I want to align this rectangle with this one here. I'm going to use this point and align that point to here, and I'm going to use this point and align it here. So these being the first 2 points, it will attach down to this corner. So align. first source point, first destination point, and now I'll go up to the other end, second destination point. I've got no more points that I want to work with. I don't want them to scale. If I wanted them to scale, this rectangle would have, that length there will become the same length as this length here. So I'm going to click no, and you'll see that now that those objects have aligned. When you're drawing polylines and you're drawing an arc, hold on, I've just lost, and we hold the control key, you'll find that the arcs will go in reverse for you. I don't know if you'd have any use for that at all, but you know, you are able to reverse the direction of the arcs. Just one of those little ones that probably will never be used, but it's there anyway. Okay, trim and extend. I'll just put a couple of lines in here. Trim, we'll have a look at. I'll start the trim command. I'm an old school one that types most of the things, so I'm not so good with menus and ribbons, but anyway, trim, if I click on this button here, it will trim back. If I hold the shift button, it will extend. Same with the extend command. If you hold shift, it will trim, and if you don't hold shift, it will extend. Just one of those little ones, so rather than using both commands, you can use one or the other. There's there's a thing called nudge, and this isn't on menus either. The nudging distance is based on the snap spacing that you have in your drawing. So my snap spacing is 10. So if I nudge, I hold this object and I hold the control button and I press one of the arrows. Hold on, I didn't select. And use the arrow buttons, I can move the object around. Most of us use coordinates, but you're able to do that sort of thing. When I undo, it does multiple steps, as you can see. So I'm just undoing each step at a time. I'm back to where I was. The undo command, rather than me having to, I've nudged that thing around, it's gone to a point that I don't want it to be. So the easiest way to do something when you know you're going to do a sequence of commands and you're not sure if it's going to work how you want, if you type undo at the command line and click on the mark entry or type M for mark, it will put an undo mark in our drawing. So now when I nudge this around, I erase this here. I've done multiple things. I'll erase that. And now when I go to undo and I click on back, it will undo back to where I set that mark. So that can come in handy. Also with undo, you have the undo command up here, and you can go back a certain amount of steps. You have the same ability with undo at the command line, and you can go back a certain amount of steps. So if I go back 10 steps, it'll take me back 10 steps. Redo will undo the last undo. Does that make sense? No. Anyway, so I've got that there. So undo mark and undo back will help out with getting to certain points in your drawing. I'll go back into this layout drawing. I'll go back into model space. And we find, if we have a look up here, we've got multiple objects in our drawing. Sorry, not on that one. Okay, so you see here, we've got a line here, and we've also got a line here. So we've got multiple objects in our drawing that are overlapping each other. There's a command called overkill. So if we go to the Home tab, the modify, drop the list down, and it's the second last entry over here. Delete duplicate objects, or the command is called overkill. Click on overkill. I'll select the entire drawing here. It's only selecting what's turned on, what layers are turned on. It ignores the layers that are frozen. So we can set a tolerance. I'll just leave the tolerance as it is. We can get it to ignore multiple properties, colors, line types, transparency, things like that. But down the bottom here, we have options. We can optimize segments within polylines. You might have a straight polyline that has vertices in there along that line that don't need to be there. So we'll remove those intermediate vertice points. We can get it to combine collinear objects that partially overlap. And there's a couple of other options in here. But I'm just going to leave it as defaults at the moment. And I go OK. And if I press F2, I'll see that I have had 7 duplicates deleted and 102 overlapping objects or segments deleted. We have no idea where all those changes were. So I'm going to do a save as on this drawing, and I'll call it layout clean, just so because I've cleaned it up. And now if we go to the Manage tab, hold on, Manage, no. Sorry, the View tab, click on Drawing Compare, and I'll click on the original drawing, open, and it will highlight where there's been modifications made to our drawing when we did the cleanup. So there was 2 lines here, it's got rid of one of the lines. I suspect that these lines here went from here to here, and these ones through to here, and it's put a single line through here for us. Okay.
Selwyn, if I may, just very quickly, for those of you that do work with drawings such as these where you've maybe received them from an architect or even surveyors, the process which Selwyn is showing you here is one of the most incredibly useful functions, just using overkill, but then using it with DWG compare to see where you've made the changes is an absolutely superb example of how you can quickly get rid of content, but then see what you've removed. Thanks, Selwyn.
Yep. And you've also got a back and forward arrow here. So if I click on the next button, it'll just cycle through each of the objects. And you can, I'm not sure if the clarity is good enough on screen, but you can see there's a segment over this area that's red.
There's 2 lines there, Selwyn. I think I can see red and grey.
Yeah, the grey one goes, which is the new line, goes across the whole thing. Originally, there was a grey line and this line, this red line, that I don't think is probably highlighting as well as it should be on screen. So it's got rid of that red line out of our drawing. We have different options. Sorry, wrong button there. Hold on. So we can change the color, not in drawing. You know, we can choose a different color. I'll go maybe green, it might show up a bit better. So that one's not in drawing. So you can change the display of whatever here. Okay, and when it's done, just click on the plus button and that drawing will be detached from our current drawing. Okay, so before we had a line going from here to here, and also the line going back to here. So what it's done, it's got rid of this one here and just left that single line through there. Okay, Draw order. Normally, you guys, or most people with draw order, you highlight something, right-click, draw order, send to front, send to back, bring above objects, or send under objects. You're limited with the options that are available here. So if I go home, I think, just one moment. Draw order, that's what I'm after there. Bring to front. On the home tab under modify, sorry, I couldn't find it, we've got the draw order command here. However, if we expand this, you have the same options as what we had when we were right-clicked. However, down here we also have bring text to front. So it will bring all the text in front of your line work and your hatch. Same with dimensions, they can be brought in front of everything, and leaders. But this is a good one here, bring all annotations to the front, and that will bring every piece of text, all dimensions and all leaders in front of objects in your drawing. So you might find that when you're creating your hatches, they hide things and they come on and display over the top of your text. You can bring all your annotation to the front, or you can send all your hatches in your drawing to the back, rather than selecting them one at a time or using point filters to do that. So if you were going to use, the easiest way is to use this option here. However, there is another way of doing it. We'll go to the Home tab and we'll go over to Utilities. And over here, we have a thing called Quick Select. If we click on Quick Select, we can, sorry, I'll apply it to the entire drawing. I'm going to choose Hatch. I'll ignore the colors and I'll create in a new selection set, and that should have selected all the hatch in our drawing. And if you do your draw order now, send it to the back, the hatches will go to the back. So back here on utilities, you can search for anything in your drawing. You may be looking for arcs of color red. I'm not sure if there's any in this drawing, but if we click on that, it should highlight them. If I move and select previous, it's found 5. They're not arcs. Okay.
There were no arcs. It said 0 selected objects at the bottom. So
oh, okay, yeah, they're not
like
arcs.
there are any.
Okay,
They look like a spline. Goodness.
Yes, I think they are splines actually. Oh, yuck. Okay, there's a green line. Sorry, no, by layer. Okay, so we'll go back to utilities, and we're going to entire drawing, multiple line. We'll choose all lines. We'll go by layer, assuming most of it's by layer. Okay, and that selected all our lines in our drawing. So if we can move those, and that's everything that has a line in our drawing. So you can change the settings in here, you know, multiple entries. You can look for color, you can look for line type, any of that sort of stuff with that one.
Can I just jump in for just for one tip, my own personal tip on that particular command, Selwyn, if you don't mind. Folks, if you're trying to create a surface, or for example, this could be in Civil 3D or Civil Site Design, and you want to select all objects that have an elevation above a certain value. For example, it could be points, it could be blocks. This is a really good tool to say, look, I want to grab for example, all blocks with an elevation or a Z value greater than, say, 0. So Selwyn's picking position Z, operator just above that. If you say where it says equal to, I'd like to find all blocks that have an elevation greater than 0, and it will select them on the drawing, and then in which case you can then put them onto a single layer. So That's an example of where, for example, Selwyn may decide he wants to put all his 3 blocks with an elevation above 0 all on a single layer for ease of access a little bit later on. But that's an example of where I've used that on a very regular basis to grab objects. Thanks, Selwyn.
That's all right. Another way of selecting things is get cell, which is not on the menus either. GETSEL. It's asking for a source layer. I'll just choose an object. And it's chosen all objects on that layer. If I go through and I select source layer, sorry, did I select it? No. And we could just choose all the lines on that layer, line. Sorry, what did I do wrong then? Okay, arcs. So there's 21 arcs in the current selection set. So move previous, and that's all our arcs in our drawing. With selection sets, when you've created a selection set, say I'm going to go here and I'll go copy. So I've got those objects in a selection set. I can go move P for previous, and it will continue working with that selection set that we had.
Selwyn,
yes.
We've got a few people sort of asking questions and a number of people sort of asking different things about this particular session. And I just wondered whether or not we sort of bookend the session.
I think we need to do another session.
Yeah. Next month.
I've still got just over 20 items to go through.
Yes, which would it would make sense certainly for us to push these into another session. Yeah, yes. I think because folks, as you can imagine, Selwyn's got a vast amount of knowledge, and there's only so much he can share in the space of an hour. Obviously, we're very dependent on questions that are asked as well. There's a lot of content which we've had to sort of sidetrack onto, which is fantastic. And I appreciate we haven't even been able to answer all the questions in the session. One of them was something about blip mode, which I in the past used to use, and apparently is no longer a command. So the old blip mode. It's apparently it's discontinued. So just
fantastic. That's a good one. Go on.
Yeah, it was until they unfortunately removed it. But folks, what we'll do is we will close off the session now. Sorry, Selwyn, to
no, that's all good.
Cut you short. First of all, thank you very much. That was fantastic. Even I have to say that someone did mention on the Q&A panel about the fact that when you did the draw order pull down from the panel, how that there were those 4 or 5 extra draw order options. And to be fair, even I didn't know about those. So okay. I'm taking some away. So thank you very much. And folks, really what I'll do is I'll just close off with the final slide, if that's all right. Okay, now hopefully, Selwyn, you're now seeing my screen?
Yes. Fantastic.
Well, folks, thank you very much for attending. Sorry, we've slightly overrun here, but as I said, there's a lot of content, and we're going to push this into a session next month. You are going to be available. You'll keep your eyes peeled for the newsletter, where we will advertise the webcast for the coming month and then the individual weeks. If you do want to know what webcasts are coming next month, one of which will be AutoCAD Tips and Tricks Part 2, feel free to head to the website, resources, and then the webcast as live webcast events pull down. You can provide suggestions and feedback, and get us and see what webcasts we're going to be running next month. And a couple more. So we've got one next week, which is related to civil site design, vertical grading editor, and cross-section viewer. Then one at the end of the month, which is going to be related to doing lot grading with civil site design. So on that, Selwyn, thank you so much. Really, really good. Fantastic presentation, and lots to take in, and we look forward to catching up with you next month. And for the rest of you, hope you stay safe and well this week and the ongoing weeks, and we look forward to speaking to you soon. Take care. Thanks, Selwyn.
Thank you. Not a problem.